This is Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach with myself, Corrine Kelly, and Sister Arnetta LeGree. You can reach us at 240-432-6763, or you can go to our website at www.igbatt.com. Today we will be talking about moving forward, and that means being committed to pursuing a plan that God has for our lives. Moving forward means that we're not going to allow thoughts, excuses, or behaviors, past anything to keep us from pursuing the goals that God has for us. God is able to take any of our insufficiencies, our shortcomings, and negative situations and turn them around. And because we know this, despite anything that comes up in our lives, we will not give up. We will be moving forward. It means that we're not intimidated by our shortcomings or allow our weaknesses to cause us to give up on our dreams and goals. While we understand that setbacks, disappointments, and feelings of hopelessness may occur, we will not let setbacks and feelings of hopelessness become a permanent response to a temporary situation. We will continue to trust and believe in God, even though we may not understand everything that He's doing in our lives. Moving forward means that we're putting faith in action, not just words. Moving forward means that we're not just sitting back passively waiting for something to happen. Instead, we're moving forward means that we are engaging in activities that are moving us closer to the plan that God has for our lives. So, welcome to 2007, moving forward.
Amen. That was a definition that we actually came up with together. And this is the definition that we're going to be working from for the next couple of broadcasts, moving forward. So I think as we go out of 2006, many of us have a lot of things that we wanted to do with our lives. Mm-hmm. Many of us have a lot of goals that we set for ourselves. Yes. But for whatever reason, those goals didn't come to pass. Absolutely. Every year, is an opportunity for us to think about New Year's resolutions, mm-hmm. or what I would do differently. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to do this, mm-hmm. and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But then we find ourselves, let's say in March or April or May, mm-hmm. can't even remember what those New Year resolutions were. So what we wanted to do was just, again, start off the new year just talking about moving forward. Mm-hmm. Moving forward in the plans that God has for us. Mm-hmm. Moving forward in the goals that we've set for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And not letting things hold us back. Because we all have problems, weaknesses, and deficiencies. Right. Like our program here, we talk a lot about mental illness or people with negative situations. Mm-hmm. And you may not have a negative situation, you may not have a mental illness, but we all have something that we need to work towards. Absolutely. We all have something that if we allow it, would hold us back. Mm-hmm. And that's the main goal of this broadcast, is letting people know that we all have something. Mm-hmm. We all have something that we need to work on. But that something does not have to stop us from moving forward in the plans of God for our lives. So let's take a look at our definition in a little more detail. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we'll get an opportunity on this broadcast to discuss some of the things that can keep us from moving forward. We talked about in our definition that moving forward was committed to pursuing the plan of God for our lives, despite our fears, insufficiencies, symptoms, and negative circumstances. Mm-hmm. And like I said before, all of us have some type of insufficiency, symptoms, or negative circumstances. Mm-hmm. When we look at successful people, Donald Trump, Oprah Winfrey, or, just to name a few, they didn't start out being perfect. And neither are they perfect now. But they learned to move forward despite their weaknesses, despite what was going on. A lot of times when you have a mental illness, for example, or long-term situation, we can be so focused on our negative situation, focused on our symptoms, that we become stuck. Mm-hmm. We don't want to, I would do it, but I stutter. I would do this, but, I have to take medications. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people who stutter who are successful. There are a lot of people who have to take medications who are successful. Mm-hmm. So those things don't have to be excuses. But the main thing is we have to be committed to moving forward. We have to get tired of being in a situation that we're in.
Right. And one thing that you're saying is, we focusing on that. It's okay to identify it, but we're not saying identify and stay there.
Right, right.
Identify in the sense of, what can I do to overcome this? How can I recover where I am? If we've had some disappointments and some setbacks, what caused me, if it was myself that caused this setback, what did I do to cause me to be set back?
Right.
All right? And recognize it. My girlfriend used to say all the time, that's why they put erasers on pencils. Well, we know that God's, for any insufficiencies that we have in our lives, He's already told us that His grace is sufficient.
Right.
Okay? And if I recognize that I'm not in this alone, and yes, because I may have plans and I may have goals, does my goals and my plans line up with the goals and plans that God has for our life? Because sometimes we can have those and they may not be the ones that He had.
Right.
Then we're disappointed because God didn't work in my plan. Well, He made me, so He knows what plan He has for my life.
And you're saying two good things there. Is number one, we have to realize we have to get in line with God's plan.
Right.
But I think about people who, let's say, family or parents who have children, and they have all these plans for their children. My child's going to become a doctor. My child's going to do this. And then the child gets a long-term illness or a situation, and then all those plans are seemingly go out the window. But still, even though your child may have a long-term illness or situation, or things in life don't go the way we thought, God still has a plan, and we can work from that.
So we find out, since He allowed this to happen, what was His purpose in what He allowed to come in my life. And unfortunately, many times we in the disappointment, if we're not careful, there comes resentment. There comes bitterness. They want to start blaming and whatever. And if I'm doing all of that, then I can't see how to overcome.
Right.
So we're talking about, again, moving forward. The word moving, ing, means continue as it is. I might be at a slower pace than I thought I was going to be, but the key is I am still moving.
And the thing also, too, what you were saying a minute ago, is that we recognize that we have weaknesses. Doesn't mean that, we become overwhelmed by the fact that we recognize it. But for some people, it's hard even to recognize that we have things that need to be worked on, or that we have problems or issues, and there are a lot of reasons for that. For some of us, we can't let our pride doesn't let us, and then for some of us, we have such negative self-esteem issues about ourselves that we have erected such a defense.
And some of those self-esteem issues have come from things we heard when we were younger.
That's right. You're stupid.
Right. Okay. Or then some of them we have embedded in our own selves with our own thoughts. Excuse me. And God says, I know my thoughts of you, thoughts of peace, and not of evil, to give you an expected end. So if my thoughts, even about myself, are not lining up with the thoughts that God has about me, then I need to go find out. First of all, evaluate, how do my thoughts make me feel? Do they make me feel like I want to move forward?
Because if you're telling yourself that, like you said, we've heard things from the past, and if we're telling ourselves, you're stupid, because we heard it before. Well, you're stupid, you never amount to anything. No, our thoughts are not going to make us feel like we can move forward. Because every time somebody says, oh, you can do it, you can do it, that old tape tells us, you're just stupid. You're not going to be able to do it.
And there comes a time when we have to do our thoughts like, and the best thing I can use, one of the sports used to be, was baseball. Okay, and he hit that ball out there, he hit a field goal. Okay, but if it's a strike or a foul, it's not really going anywhere. But if he hit those thoughts out in the field goal, my girlfriend used to say, kick the devil out, kick him out of your mind. But as long as you ponder over, I read this article once where it says there's actually 18 inches between the mind and the heart. If I can get it out of my mind, then I don't have to be concerned about it hiding in my heart. Okay, but if I let it fester too long in my mind, then I've allowed myself to go into a danger zone.
Right, because thoughts, feelings, and behaviors go together.
Absolutely.
And that's that danger zone you're talking about, because
Mhm.
once it gets in your heart, it gets in your mind, it gets into your behavior.
Mhm.
And you start acting the way that you think.
Mhm.
You know? And it doesn't matter how many times I say to you, oh, you can do it, you can do it.
Mhm.
If you're telling yourself that you can't, and you believe that you can't, you won't.
That's right. So I've got to counteract my own thoughts.
Mhm.
I've got to bring them captive. You know, I got to recognize, no, this is not a good thought.
Right.
It's not a good habit. Someone said to me once, when I get a thought in my head, nobody can change it, and I agree with that.
Right.
No one can change it until but me,
Mm-hmm.
until I make it up in my mind. No, I don't want this thought anymore.
Right. I want something
And
different.
I realize that without God, I can do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I need God to even help me to be able to renew my mind, to come to, we're not saying that it's going to happen overnight.
Right, exactly. Well, that
You
is
know,
easy.
Right.
Mhm.
It might even, the thoughts have been embedded for so long. You know, it might have to do like something when you get a spot on something and you go and you put a little spot remover on it. Sometimes you got to let that spot remover sit a while
Mhm.
in order to get, and then after you do it, you might still have a little stain. You got to go back
Right,
again.
do it again.
So it's it's moving forward. Moving mean continuously. You got to continuously and begin to add on new thoughts.
That's right.
Add them on, and the more you add those new thoughts on, the more. And yes, there are going to be situations. Somebody might come up and say one of those things that you were thinking,
That's
or I
trigger
was
words.
thinking. What am I going to do? Am I going to go in a slump and agree with them now? If I do, then I'm wavering.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
The
almost
choice is
making,
ours.
Right. I'm making that old thought more active than I am, and I'm voiding out the new thought.
Mhm.
So it's going to take a process.
And it's going to take me believing that I can do it.
Mhm.
In order for me to get rid of negative thoughts,
Mhm.
or to commit to getting rid of negative thoughts,
Mhm.
I have to believe that there's something better.
Mhm.
So when we're talking about moving forward, if things have not worked out for me before, for
Mhm.
example,
Mhm.
and then now we're talking about moving forward,
Mhm.
I'm saying, yeah, I'm going to move forward, I'm going to start this business in 2007, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do all these great things, and then, like you said, we start out good, and then something happens,
Mhm.
someone says something,
Mhm.
and reinforces that old thought,
Mhm.
well, you can't do it, you can't do it.
Mhm.
But it's that, at that moment,
Mhm.
that I have to realize that the hope
Mhm.
has to hold me.
Mhm.
I have to realize that, okay, that there is something better than
Mhm.
what I'm seeing now.
That's right.
So the reason why it's so hard for us to kick out thoughts is because we don't really believe it yet. We have to believe that, hey, I can move forward, that I
That's
can
right.
do this.
That's right.
It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be come overnight,
Mhm.
like you said,
Mhm.
but I can do it.
Mhm.
So, but when the wavering comes in,
Mhm.
is because we're not persuaded. We're not
Mhm.
fully persuaded
Mhm.
that there is something different.
Mhm.
Because once we become fully persuaded
Mhm.
about anything,
Mhm.
you know, about any, whatever it is,
Mhm.
when I make my mind up, I don't care how many times I've said I'm going to stop smoking.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't smoke, but how many times I've done that, for
Mhm.
example, that it could be 100 times.
Mhm.
But at that moment when I make my mind up,
Mhm.
really make my mind up and say, you know what, I'm going to stop smoking,
Mhm.
then that's it.
And I recognize, even in the midst of making up my mind,
Hmm.
that no, it's not easy.
That's right.
And yes, the body's going to go through
Mhm.
a withdrawal.
Exactly.
Yes, there are going to be other people around me that are still doing it. Yes, I am going to still smell it.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm still going to even have the urge
Exactly.
for it.
Exactly.
Okay,
But I'm committed.
that's it. The commitment.
Yeah.
I have a determination. I have a fight. I have a drive
Mhm.
now.
To that no matter what. Because what happens is the smoking, we're sticking with that, not picking on anybody who smokes, but we're using that for an example.
Yeah.
You know, I have to get to the point where I look at, okay, I can continue to smoke
Mhm.
and hurt myself and damage my body,
Mhm.
or I can move forward and not smoke.
And you know,
And
I heard-
I have to get to I have to make a choice. I have to
That's right.
decide what is
was
more important.
And I've heard different ones say, I will stop when God, quote unquote, wants me to stop.
Mhm.
Well, God wants you to stop the very day that you recognize and someone gives you the warning, you know this is not good.
Right.
That's the day to stop.
Mhm.
Okay? And unfortunately, I know of a few people that had that attitude, I'll
Mhm.
stop when God, quote unquote, wants me. That's an excuse.
Mhm.
Okay? And then when they got so sick and their illness, their lung cancer was because of that, they were able to stop just like that.
Right, exactly. Because
Yeah.
now they had a reason to stop.
Right. But
You know?
why get to that point?
Right, exactly. And unfortunately, when it gets to that point, just talking about smoking or whatever it is, now we're faced with the consequences.
And that's it. And the Bible said, be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. The reaping process is usually greater than what was sown out there. And most times we don't want the reaping process. And we want all this compassion and understanding. I could have gotten compassion and understanding when I was trying to stop. Because those same people that are working with me now, you know, I'm just using myself as an example. Now that I'm down, now that I'm sick, and I want that from them, they were there to support me all along.
All along. But again, the consequence. I didn't see a reason to stop before. And what we're telling people, what we're sharing with you, that you have a reason to move forward in 2007. And your reason is because you're here for a purpose. You're here for, there's a plan or destiny for your life. So that reason alone should want to push you to move forward in the things that God has for you. And you may say, well, what do you mean? I don't know what God has for me. Sometimes God is not going to say, Miss Kelly, you know, he's not going to say that. Many times we know what we're supposed to be doing by the things that we like to do, you know, by the needs that surround us. You know, if I'm in a place and I keep, you know, seeing that there's a need, a certain need, and I can feel it. Or sometimes a thought will come into my mind or into my heart. So there are a lot of ways that we can find out what we're supposed to be doing. And well, I don't really know. Well, do something, because there's plenty of stuff out here to do. Begin to do something that's positive. And as you begin to move forward in the little that you do know, I heard someone say, then God will begin to manifest himself in greater ways for you. And you were going to say?
Absolutely. And I was sitting, I was thinking, since we're using that you know, as an example, I remember sharing with someone one time I had read where it was saying that the cigarettes was made up of 13 different type of poisons. And their answer was, that's a lie, that's not true, that's not, you know, they refuse to even accept that there could be anything negative in it, you know. And then the one-on-one says, it calms my nerves. Well, the calming only comes for 20 minutes. Why can't I go ahead and trust God for an eternal calmness? You know, that calmness that I don't have to jump up in the middle of the night and go get a cigarette that'll woke me up out of my sleep for an urge, when I can trust him in the midst of it all in the first place. And unfortunately, we're living in a time in society where we're looking for quick fixes. We're making a lot of excuses, and we're justifying why this is the way it is.
And we have to realize that those excuses and justifications come with consequences later on down the line. You know, and like you said, you run into so many people, and we do it ourselves. You know, we wait until there's an emergency to have to do something, and then when it becomes an emergency, we want everybody to feel sorry for us and everybody to react to our emergency.
Adjust their schedule, their lifestyle to help me now. You know, when you weren't willing to help yourself. You know, so moving forward is a personal action. Okay? And one of the things, faith without works is I don't care how much I say, I'm going to move forward. 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 Okay, until I'm willing to put some actions to it. They're just dead works, dead faith.
And you know, unfortunately, Ms. Kelly, I mean, I know some people will probably get upset with me, but people of faith, specifically Christians, kind of get stuck with this. Because I think we start with prayer, which is fine. You know, pray, fast, whatever you want to do, that's fine. But then after you do all that type of stuff, then you need to get up and do some work. You know, well, you shouldn't have to work. Well, now you do have to work. You know, you do have, exactly. And that work, it depends on what it is. You know, if I feel led that, you know, I'm going to be a medical doctor, I'm going to have to work and go to school. I'm going to have to work to study. You know, prayer is not going to take care of everything, but unfortunately we think that's the case. You know, I have an illness. Well, you know, I'm just going to pray and God will heal me. And you don't want to take medications.
Well, let's use this one for example, you know, and I've seen a lot of it. someone that's a diabetic, and we're, as you said, we're not picking on, we're just naming
Right.
real things that are going on today in life. And they said, well, I'll just pray that, I'm going to eat this, and I'm going to pray God don't let me get sick, okay? Or that God have mercy on me, and God understands.
Even though the doctor already told you you shouldn't eat this because this isn't good for you.
Absolutely. And I just pray that God keep my sugar stable. I know this going to run it up, but, I'm praying God don't let that happen this time. Where is the discipline?
Right, yeah.
One of the fruit of the Spirit. Okay? Temperance. Self-control. Discipline. Where is it? I got faith and I believe God and I believe God to heal me. He says, okay, I give you some responsibility in
right,
this.
Exactly.
And we don't want to be responsible.
And I like what you said, that word discipline, because when you look at successful people or people who are moving forward in things that they feel that God has called them on this earth to do, there's a certain amount of discipline. So football players, they have a certain amount of discipline. They have to get up and eat certain foods and not eat certain foods. Going back to Oprah Winfrey, there's a discipline that goes along with that. Whatever you do, and if you want to do it well, there's going to be a discipline.
And even in the discipline, there has come some training. Okay, there was the time, so she has to be willing to submit herself to and have confidence in those that are around her, those that may go out and search out things for her to have. Since we're talking about Oprah, things that are important to the people for her program. She can't say, well, you went out and got that, but I'm not interested in that. This is, oh no, they don't want, no. She needs people. So I don't care what it is, we're not going to be able to do it by ourselves. All right. But even in the midst of that, she still got to be able to carry out her part. And something happened recently. Someone was working overtime on their job. Excuse me, and I asked them, I said, why are you still there? And they says, well, the first group didn't do their part. So it's thrown us back. And if we can recognize that whatever our actions are, or non-actions in our life, there is still going to be a domino effect somewhere, be it positive or negative. Everything in our life, somewhere along the way, affects someone else. So, how selfish am I?
And how willing am I to submit to what someone else is saying in order to move forward? Because we don't have all of the answers. But again, going back to that, if I'm defensive, if I'm walking around defensive, it's going to be hard for people even to say anything to me. Say, well, Arnetta, da-da-da-da-da-da. What do you mean? What are you trying to say? People are just going to ignore me after a while. And then, again, as we talk about some of the things that keep us from moving forward, one of the things is defensiveness. Because people will ignore you. People will just, oh, well, that's just so-and-so. And then you're wondering, oh, what's going on? Why can't, why they didn't invite me to the party? Or why didn't I get the promotion? You didn't get the promotion, or you didn't get invited to the party because you're a pain in the neck.
That's right.
People can't, exactly. People can't talk to you. People can't say, well, Arnetta, why don't you, maybe you should try to do it this way. Well, I don't want to do it this way because, okay, fine. I don't get the job. So again, all of these are some things we're talking about are things that can keep us from moving forward.
And right there when you say, well, first thing you say is, they overlooked me. They took them over me. Did they really?
Go back to excuses now.
That's it.
Instead of looking at what it is that I need to do. Like we started out saying before, when we're looking at moving forward, sometimes we have to take a look at, it's not always your fault. It's not always the government's fault. It's not always the black man or the white man's fault. Sometimes I have to take a look at, okay, what could I have done differently? Or what do I need to work on? But again, in order to do those types of things, it takes a sense of honesty with myself. It takes a sense, I have to get to the point where I'm willing to say, you know what, let me just take a minute here, look at myself, and just come to grips that maybe I'm not perfect. You know, maybe I did make a mistake.
That's right.
Maybe I do need to work on this area. But again, if I'm defensive, or if I think that people are always out to get me, or even self-esteem issues, it's going to be hard to do that.
Yes.
So all of those things, self-esteem issues, thinking people are out to get you, lack of confidence, are things that can also keep us from moving forward.
You know, and everything that we get, everything that we buy from the store has a little pamphlet or manual,
Right.
okay, that goes with it. And many times we don't read the manual because we figure we already know.
Right, exactly.
You know, and there are little things that, and in those manuals, they also give you warnings and precautions that you need to take. Well, and that's what, and if they, you know wise enough to do that with temporal things, with natural things. God's given us a manual.
Right.
All right, and most times we don't want to check out the manual. And we stumble through, we make mistakes, we fall down. And yes, there are obstacles in our life. Let's be real. There are obstacles. There are going to always be some obstacles. You know, and I had someone say, well, you know, life is a bed of roses. And on that rose are some thorns.
Exactly.
And you got to know how to get around the thorns.
Right, there's going to be some ups and downs.
Peaks and highs, and
Right.
peaks and lows. And same thing, we accept that there's peaks and lows, peaks and valleys in the natural, where
Right.
mountains are concerned. We accept that when in other things, in sports, but we don't want to accept that
Right.
in our own natural life.